What's going on, Packers Nation? Welcome back to another video of Packers Latest. I'm your host, Taylor Bretl, keeping you up to date on the latest news of the green and gold Green Bay Packers. Still riding high off that victory over the Chicago Bears on Sunday, the 28-21 win, jumping the Packers into first place in the NFC North, jumping the Packers to 9-3-1, and keeping them perfect within division play at 4-0. Once again, I'm your host, Taylor Bretl, and welcome to Packers Latest. If you're a Packers fan, I welcome you. Maybe if you're a Broncos fan wanting to know what's going on with this Packers team ahead of when we play you guys on Sunday, I welcome you as well. Feel free to subscribe, leave a like, turn on notification bell so you know when these videos go live, so you can be one of the first few to know the latest news on the green and gold. We're going to start off this episode talking about Josh Jacobs. I did not touch on him last episode, but man, he was the MVP of this game on that last drive. The big reason why Green Bay was able to stay perfect in the division, winning 28-21. Jacobs finished with 93 total yards in this game and a touchdown. That touchdown being the last one Green Bay needed to go up 27-21, which turned to 28-21 after that extra point. Want to highlight what the play of the game was, in my opinion. It's when the game was tied 21-21, 5 minutes, 20 seconds to go in the fourth quarter. It was 3rd and 1 on Chicago's 28-yard line. It was a very long 1 yard. It was basically a 3rd and 2. And Josh Jacobs getting his longest carry of the night, going for 21 yards on what seemed was going to be a loss of 2 yards. It was a pitch outside to the right. It seemed like Jacobs was going to get swamped behind the line. He made a beautiful cut to the left side and shot it up for a 21-yard rush, which allowed Green Bay to milk the clock more and get it into the end zone to take the lead that they would not give back. He truly changed that game. I'm going to look at Josh Jacobs among NFL running backs as well, because he still is one of the most underrated running backs in the league. He's a well-known name. Everyone knows him, but I don't feel like he gets the appreciation he really deserves. He's missed one game this season, and he's out in that game against the Giants as well. So kind of 1.5 games if you want to view it that way, missing the full game against the Vikings and then half of that game against the Giants. Despite that, though, he still has 12 rushing touchdowns, which is the 3rd most in the NFL, trailing just Jonathan Taylor, who's making a case for the MVP, and Jahmyr Gibbs, as we are very familiar with him, one of the best running backs in not just the NFC, but in the NFL. Jacobs also has held onto the ball really, really well. He has 206 carries this season, only fumbling 2 times, losing just one of those. I think that's a very, very big thing in Jacobs' game. We talk about how well he does on the ground, but you don't look at the turnover issues he could have. Again, just 2 fumbles, losing one of those, and it contributes to why the Packers are on this 4-game winning streak. Jordan Love has been good at not throwing interceptions. Did have one in that game against Chicago, but bounced back after that. And Josh Jacobs has been very good at holding on to the football. Jacobs has totaled 90-plus total yards in 4 of the last 5 games for Green Bay. The only one where he did not total that was against the Giants, because he was removed early in that game with a knee injury. So, I'm not going to count that one because he really only played half the game, if that, maybe call it 40% of the game. But nonetheless, still 4 out of those last 5 games, he's totaled 90 or more total yards, which is nice as well, him being able to be used in the passing department. But speaking about the passing department, there's a lot of guys getting the football, but especially in this wide receiver room. And the Packers looking to guide this wide receiver room. It's got a lot of depth, a great issue to have. But you look at some guys that might not get as many opportunities with names like Jaden Reed coming back. You obviously want everyone back on the field. It's nice to see. Packers need to get healthy, especially in this December to January stretch. But then you have things like Matthew Golden and Dontavian Wicks only getting 11 total snaps in that win against the Chicago Bears. We're going to look at the snap percentage here against Chicago. There was 53 total offensive snaps. Looking at who within the receiving room got how many. Christian Watson led the Packers with 44 of those 53 snaps, which is 83%. Romeo Doubs behind him by just 1. He had 43 offensive snaps for 81%. Jaden Reed had 25. Obviously, that was his first game back from injury, so did not expect him to be in there for the full game. Expected right about 50%, which is near where he sat, with 47% of the snaps played. Bo Melton, who had a touchdown in this one, just 9 offensive snaps, but hey, like I said, one of those for a touchdown. That's 17% of them. And then Dontavian Wicks with 6, which is 11% of the snaps. Matthew Golden with 5, which is 9% of the snaps. And then Savion Williams did not play, so he had no snaps in that. But that's another receiver you can add to this mix when this receiving room is all healthy. Per Matt Schneidman on X, he did mention why Golden and Wicks did not get as many snaps. He said Matthew Golden only played 5 offensive snaps and Dontavian Wicks only played 6. Matt LaFleur said post-game that both were fighting through injury, Golden with a wrist and Wicks with an ankle. We did know about this Golden injury because we've seen him on the injury report for the past couple of weeks waiting for him to come back, so that does make sense. The Wicks ankle injury is a little newer because we saw what he did on Thanksgiving a game ago with 6 catches for over 90 yards and 2 touchdowns. Definitely the MVP of that game on Thanksgiving. So battling a little ankle injury, but it shows when this whole receiving room is back and healthy, guys like Wicks get overshadowed, which is really unfortunate to see because when he's on the field, he's so good. But it is a good problem to have, I guess you could say. I mean, a lot of people view this Packers team as not having a true wide receiver 1, having a lot of wide receiver 2s, but hey, it has clearly worked out for Green Bay, as I said, at 9-3-1, and getting a guy like Christian Watson back, he has seemed to take the throne of that wide receiver 1 role, at least over the past couple of weeks. Felt like Romeo Doubs earlier in the season when Watson was out, especially when Reed was out. It was truly Romeo Doubs carrying that wide receiver room. But now with everyone back, it feels like Watson's starting to take that upper role. But it's nice. You can get a different guy to be the receiver of the game by game, which I think makes this passing attack really dangerous. There's not just one guy to defend. The defense will draw to, and everyone else is kind of out there doing cardio. Anyone that runs out there, even a guy like Bo Melton, who's more focused on playing cornerback, can get 9 snaps and have one of those result in a touchdown. But again, wide receiver room, lots to guide. One more thing to add on that, Malik Heath, if you remember that name, he is no longer with the Packers. My personal opinion, I thought he was so good, but it was just getting overshadowed. I know he had some drop issues, but man, this guy would make some good catches as well. He was a very solid blocker. And Malik Heath no longer on the Packers. They released him on Saturday, December 6th. But good news for him, he's already been added to another 53-man roster in the Atlanta Falcons. So we wish him the best of luck in Atlanta because we know what Heath can bring to an offense. He did have one of the best catches that I've seen in recent Packers history. God, I'm trying to think when that was, who it was against. Maybe it was Commanders in that week 2 game. The one right on the sideline plays perfectly. I don't know. Nonetheless, when Malik Heath was in there, he was making plays when they needed it to happen. Unfortunate to have to see him go, but there are just so many receivers in this room, and that's unfortunately what is going to happen. But moving on, we are going to look at the shift in the NFC North that prevailed with the Packers taking this win over the Chicago Bears. The Packers jumped 14% in the chances to win the NFC North. They started at a 55% chance before that game. Now it's up to a 69% chance, and the Bears dropped to just a 23% chance to win the division. But in my opinion, I think that's too widespread, especially looking at both teams' schedules remaining. I'm not counting the Bears out, not even counting the Lions out yet. I think the Lions sit at just an 8% chance. But nonetheless, like the shift in this is really big. It shows why this division game is super important. With that tie against the Cowboys, it's unlikely the Packers will be playing in any tiebreaker. They will truly just be above or below the team that is battling them for second place. Going to be very unlikely if they end up tied with them and they hold a tiebreaker because they are, 9-3-1. Not many teams are going to compete with that. Maybe the Cowboys if they make a miraculous run at the end of the season, but it's not looking so. You look at the remaining schedule, starting with the Packers. Coming up, their next game is in Denver. Denver Broncos hold the best record in the league at 11-2. Then they go to Chicago, so 2 straight road games, one against Denver, who's 11-2, and one in Chicago, where the Bears are still 9-4 and gave the Packers one heck of a fight. Then the Packers finish off the season with 2 home games against the Baltimore Ravens, who hold a record of 6-7, and home against the Minnesota Vikings, who hold a record of 5-8. Turn it over to the Bears' remaining schedule. They got the Browns at home, the Packers at home, at the 49ers, who sit at 9-4, and then home against the Lions, who sit at 8-5. So definitely a tough stretch for the Packers. The Bears also have a tough stretch, starting off with the 3-10 Browns. Could help them get to 10-4. But hey, Shedeur Sanders definitely had a strong game. I know they ended up losing to the Titans, but he threw for over 300 yards and I believe 3 touchdowns and just 1 interception. So you never know, this Browns team playing with nothing to lose. Who knows what they're going to throw at this Chicago team. You're looking at the division, though. I've talked about it. Packers are perfect 4-0 in the division. Here are the last times the Packers had this amount of wins in the division. Packers currently sit at 4-0. The last time they had 4 wins in the division was 2023, Jordan Love's first season, where they reached the divisional round after beating the Dallas Cowboys in the wild card. The last time they had 5 wins in division, that was 2020, where the Packers reached the NFC Championship. And the last time the Packers won a perfect 6-0 in division play was 2019, where they also reached the NFC Championship. So based on trends, based on numbers, the Packers seem good to advance one round in the playoffs, or at least, maybe if they got the number 1 overall seed, get a bye to that divisional round. But hey, it's a different season every year, just something neat to look at. But talking about the playoffs, the Packers don't have that number 1 seed just yet. That still belongs to the Los Angeles Rams. But with the win, the Packers jump up and hold the number 2 seed in the NFC. Going from top to bottom, this is how the NFC playoff picture is laid out. The Rams in first at 10-3. Packers sitting behind them, number 2 at 9-3-1. The Eagles, despite a loss on Monday Night Football, still hold that 3 seed, leading their division with a record of 8-5. The Buccaneers starting to skid, but still holding on in their division. They hold the number 4 seed at 7-6. You go to the wild card, Seattle Seahawks, the 5 seed at 10-3. The San Francisco 49ers, the 6 seed at 9-4, and the Chicago Bears, the 7 seed, also at 9-4. So if you look at how that lays out, remember when the Packers beat the Cowboys? The Packers were a 7 seed, the Cowboys were a 2. They went into Dallas and took them down. You look at how this will line up. You would have Packers-Bears once more in Lambeau Field if the playoffs started today. Definitely something wild to look at, but there's still 4 weeks to go, so there will definitely be more shakeup. You look on the bubble, the teams that are just outside of these top 7, you got the Detroit Lions at 8-5, the Carolina Panthers at 7-6, and the Dallas Cowboys at 6-1. Lions definitely could sneak into that last wild card spot, especially playing a team like Chicago to end the season. The Lions already beat Chicago once, so if they end up tied, Lions would jump over them. It's definitely something to monitor. The Panthers, despite being 7-6, they're in the same division as the Buccaneers, who also are 7-6. They got 2 games left against them. I don't believe they played this season, so there's a chance if the Panthers get in, it'll likely be in that number 4 slot. And the Cowboys, 6-1, still trail the Eagles by a decent amount, who are 8-5, but you never know if they can make a jump there. But that's all I got for this episode for Packers latest. Definitely a lot of shakeup, definitely a lot to talk about. The Packers going to face arguably the best team in the NFL. Record-wise, they are the best team in the NFL at 11-2 in the Denver Broncos. But there'll be lots to talk about before that game. Once again, I'm your host, Taylor Bretl, and I appreciate you guys tuning in for another episode of Packers Latest. And go, Pack, go.